This is not my 2010 BMW Z4, but this is a 204 brake horsepower, 2.5 litre inline six, which makes 184 pound-feet of torque. To confuse us all, it's badged as a 2.3. Inside we find the Z4 is equipped with many features, but also some interesting emissions, just like the SL that I reviewed a couple of weeks back. To start with, we have this very interesting wood panel for the climate control, which actually looks quite a lot like a paddle that you might serve cheese on. The second interesting feature we have is this iDrive system. Now, iDrive received quite a lot of hate when it debuted in the 7 series in 2002, but by 2010 the system had actually been refined to the point where it's controlled by this knob here that actually feels very high quality, and these buttons have a very satisfying click to them, and this screen is actually rather functional, and this button falls very nicely to hand. I do quite like this as a screen setup in a car. However, there are a number of interesting features. Now, on every BMW I've been in, it has this little wheel here which basically overrides any of the climate control input temperatures you put in. So if you put it on hot and then wheel this dial down to cold, you'll get cold air at the vents regardless. It's very, very strange. I really don't understand what it's there for. I mean, my cars do okay without it. Second interesting feature is this little thing here that doesn't really look connected to anything, but I will give it that it's actually remarkably well made. This little dial here, it actually controls the volume for the screen, and these are basically programmable buttons, and that's where the CD goes, and it's all very interesting. Now, one thing I actually don't like about this car are where the buttons to control the roof are. They're just here. They're incredibly hard to reach. They're not massively well marked. I feel like, why couldn't they have just put them further down this plastic wood slab? I mean, that would have made it much easier. Now, this is of course a BMW, so we do have bits of trim that don't quite fit together properly, but we do have a 6-speed ZF 6 HP transmission, which I dislike for being slow yet firm, so it's kind of the worst of both worlds. It's not sporty, but it's not particularly comfortable either. Having said that, the climate control buttons do have a very nice feel. They don't sound like a child's toy like that Mercedes I reviewed, my Mercedes. But why are there 2 recirc buttons? Please do comment down below, because the owner's manual doesn't shed much light on it either. I don't understand why there are 2 recirculation air buttons for the climate control. Next thing we have to discuss is of course the iconic BMW gauge cluster. Now, these lights, these screens, everything glows orange in the traditional BMW sort of way, which I really quite like. Next up, something I've found perplexing on every single German car I've ever been in. I have been in quite a few. Stalks coming off the steering column. There are 3 here. Now, you consult the owner's manual and they don't make it obvious what they do. Of course, you get to use the car and you find out, but it's quite quirky that they've got all these stalks. None of them control the headlamps, because of course the headlamps are over there, but what do these stalks actually do? And unless you read the owner's manual, which, to be perfectly honest, leaves you more confused than before you started, how are you supposed to know? All I know is that BC stands for board computer, which is like, what? But it's actually a little screen in the gauge cluster that tells you information. Now, inside this car, there are, of course, seat adjustments. They're down here. They're manual, which I find quite peculiar on a car that would have been quite expensive. They're these sort of flimsy plastic levers, which really do, I think, let down what is actually quite a high quality seat. I mean, it's quite supportive, it's comfortable, nice leather, but it's controlled by these really rather flimsy levers, which I don't like. Both sides, of course, we have storage in the side doors and lovely wood trim on the door, stitched leather. It's a very nice interior. This is actually very well put together. It's much nicer than the SL. Another feature I like about this car is that between the seats there's this little net. Behind the seats, sorry, there's this little net. Now, I like this because it means you can put stuff in here. I've actually put I think I got 4 golf clubs back there once, which was interesting. But The only downside of it is, of course, this net isn't particularly well held up, so if you leave it, it just droops, and then everything you've put in here will roll forward into the passenger compartment, go under the brake pedal, and then you will crash. No, I'm being dramatic, but really, why is it floppy like that? The instrument cluster is a very interesting shape on this car. It's not symmetrical. The instrument panel isn't symmetrical like it is on almost every other car I've reviewed. This air vent in the corner here is actually higher up than this side, and it's a very sporty, I'd say, styled cockpit, which, you know, that's quite fun, and this is a sort of sporty car, but, you know, you offset that with this wood trim, which is a little bit confusing. It does, I think, look better with the aluminum trim there, like you can get in other ones, even though I am partial to this wood trim on it. So then, what are my final thoughts on the E89 Z4? Well, it's a good car, it really is. It's comfortable on the road, it's fairly quiet despite the run flat tyres. I like it. It's well made, high quality, it's fast enough, but it's just enough. Nothing about it is extraordinary, if you see what I mean. It's just... I know it has a cool folding metal roof, and I really do like that, and it is one of the few cars that looks good with the roof up or down, but it just doesn't excite me as much as the SL does, even though the SN is not really great. But this is, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a much better car than the SL, but it just isn't as exciting. Thank you for watching. I will be off air for a little while. I'm going into hospital, so I don't know when I'll be back, but I will be back.